Hey, the Send the Road Haunts, and today I'm going to be sharing another one of my... Yeah, I think this is better. Anyways, today I'm sharing another Spirit Halloween 2025 idea. Now this is fun because I don't have a lot of licensed ideas, but this will be the first one. It's the one I came up with most recently, so I'm like, hey, what the hell? I'll share it now. And let's get into that, I guess. So, this idea is of Johnny from In a Violent Nature. Now, a lot of you may not have really heard about that film, because number one, it's a really independent Canadian film, made on pretty low budget stuff. So, hell yeah, Canada reference, Canada pride, let's go! And B, it came out just last year, 2024. So it's not like a horror classic yet, by any means. And I just want to pick something a little more obscure from my licensed ideas. Just because, you've seen everyone requesting, Jason Voorhees or Freddy Fazbear. So, I just want to do something a little more, slightly more niche that you wouldn't usually see an idea for. But still, things that I do want to see. And so, if you haven't seen In a Violent Nature, basically the story for this guy, the plot of the movie, is that he was a kid who ended up getting scared off a fire tower, and now there's this locket holding him at bay, and it's about a group of teenagers that steal that locket from him, and they suffer the consequences, so to speak. And it's an interesting movie because it's actually from the killer's perspective. Johnny is the main character. He's not just the antagonist. So you follow him through the movie, see him doing the kills, see him walking to and fro, getting his weapons, which it shows everything. And I don't mean that in a controversial, it shows everything. I just mean, if you want to watch this movie, just be ready for the fact that 99% of it is just watching him walk through the woods. So if you're down for watching a guy hike for an hour and a half with a gory kill in between, it's great. I love it. Great atmosphere and stuff. And if that sounds really boring to you, don't check it out, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't fault you for that. But just, if you want to watch this movie, just know what you're in for. And as I said, I don't mean that in a gory, heinous way, even though there are quite some kills in here. I just mean that, you either love it or hate it. But essentially, the character of Johnny wears this vintage, firefighter mask, which even though it's clearly I'll just say it, the movie is clearly inspired by Friday the 13th. So Johnny acts very similarly to Jason throughout it. So maybe he's not one of my favorite slasher villains of all time. I must say, he has a really striking design. I don't know, something about the firefighter mask is just really creepy to me. And especially with some of the kills he does and stuff, I still feel like he'd make a really cool character for a spirit to do an animatronic of, even though I couldn't really see it happening. And he's holding these, drag hooks, which maybe you saw in the trailer that played there. And the reason I included them is because he uses some other weapons throughout the film. Except he uses these in probably the, hacksaw scene of the film, if you know what I mean. The way it's the most extreme kill. If you've seen it, you know which one I'm talking about. Because it got the whole theater giggling when I went to see this last year. But let's just say he doesn't use the hooks in the way you think he would. And, it's quite the kill. So, I don't know. It's a bit how you display Art the Clown with a hacksaw. But yeah, he'd just be very tattered, obviously, because in the movie he, pulls himself up from the ground. And he's almost like a spirit of nature. So, as you saw in the trailer, he has very tattered clothes, and I think the animatronic would try to reflect that with a lot of dirt stains and tears on them. And honestly, I think this guy could just look really cool. Especially as more of a background piece, which we'll get into the animation stuff. I don't know, I just think this guy would have potential to be a pretty neat animatronic, even though he's not one that a lot of people would recognize, in all honesty. So Johnny would be about 6.3 feet tall. Maybe a little taller. But in the movie, he is definitely a very big, burly guy. And maybe that didn't come across too good in the drawing. But like, not only would he be like 6.3 feet tall, like a tall dude, but I think he'd also have like pretty big proportions. Like he would have like big shoulders, be pretty wide. And overall, I think he'd just be like a really menacing figure for sure. And even, if you haven't seen the movie, I think we can all agree that it is a creepy design, and I feel like he would look really cool, in like a woods display. Just, standing there with his animation and stuff. So I'm thinking that the animation for this guy would be pretty simple. All Johnny would do is he'd turn side to side. He'd also look side to side. So honestly, a very similar animation to what the Spirit Art the Clown has, minus the waving. Although he'd also swing his hooks slightly, like kind of a Pale Girl type possum animation. I don't think it would be nearly as aggressive, though. I think it would work a little more subtly. Granted, he doesn't really do that in the movie, but I don't know. It would still be a fun touch, whatever. And I just feel like this animation would be really simple, but I think it would just work to be really like cool and menacing. Just to see him standing there looking side to side for his next victim. I don't know, I just think it would look really sick. Now, this is going to be controversial, because here is the audio. And it is just nature sounds and ambience. So I'm talking like birds chirping, like the blowing of leaves, maybe I added some footsteps and like chain rattling. And that's pretty much it. Because Johnny is a silent slasher. He does not talk. He doesn't say a word. I don't even know if you ever really hear like a grunt or even breathing from him. So he's almost completely silent. And if you've seen the movie, you know that there's no music in it. Like other than the end credits song and music that plays in one of the scenes, there's no like In a Violent Nature theme or anything, quote unquote, that could play. And honestly, I love when movies have no soundtrack and they just work on immersion. I just think it's really cool. And so, yeah, a lot of people who haven't seen the movie might listen to this audio and think, that's boring. Couldn't you have done something more? I could have added, like, gore sounds, like the sounds of someone getting killed or something. But I don't know. I just don't think it would really fit an animatronic like this, especially with this kind of chill animation. And if you have seen the movie, you'll know that there's not really much more I could have done, because this is what you hear for 90% of the film. I'm really not doing a good job of selling this. But as I said, if you heard the description and you think, you know what, that is pretty cool, I'll be down to watch that, I recommend it. I quite enjoy this movie. And with that, here's the audio. So, that was Johnny from In a Violent Nature. Do you think this is a character that warrants a prop? Or have you seen the movie and do you hate it? Have you seen the movie at all? I don't know. Is it something you'd be interested in? If this is an animatronic that came out, would you buy it? Who knows? That's yours to decide. And, if you have any answers to those questions, comment them down below. Tell me what you thought of this, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Fare thee well.